Get that paper, told that Glock, that's how we live. Yeah, my life's a gamble, I pray I don't get killed. They can't believe I got the guap, this shit for real. Can't accept the fact my brother gone, I wanna kill. Yeah, I can't go for that shit don't sit right. Instead of cabin to the old nigga, I know what you live like. Ain't worried about all just fuck these hoes and live life. I grown the drill, I'm smart enough, you gotta know how to kill.
Within Hiroshima, Japan, there stood an old orphanage filled with children who spent their days laughing and playing in the world without a care. To most, they were just ordinary kids, yet among them was a boy who was anything but ordinary. That boy was Yoichi Isagi. While others chased each other through the courtyard, Isagi would often be found inside, effortlessly solving equations meant for second-year junior high students. The adults marveled at his brilliance, applauding his talents. But his expression, it never changed. All of you adults, you bore me, he muttered. His eyes sharply cut through their shallow praise. You're too easily amused. The woman who ran the orphanage often warned potential adopters that every family that takes in Yoichi Isagi ends up bringing him back. She would then gesture towards the other children, insisting that they were better fits. And they were available. And as always, the couples would leave with someone else. Isagi didn't mind. Adoption, family, love, those things meant little to him. He had long accepted the fact that the orphanage was where he would grow up, or at least that was the story that he told himself. The truth? It was much darker. Since childhood, he had been told that a fire had claimed his parents' lives, and he had been alone and the only one who had been saved. But even though, through his hazy memories, he could recall that moment, Isagi knew it wasn't the whole story. He remembered the bitter sound of his parents' voices, arguing deep within the night. He then remembered opening his bedroom to only be met with the roaring flames in the hallways. He remembered their screams that haunted him still when he went to sleep. He had been clever enough to survive, forcing his small body through a window and into the waiting arms of a firefighter below. But the image of that night, it never left him. Running from the flames, running from helping his family, leaving them to die. It all plagued his mind like a disease. One evening, as he sat lost in thought, a voice pulled him back. "What is your name, boy?" Isagi turned. A man with long hair and a sharp black suit stood before him, his gaze piercing. "Yoichi Isagi." The man faintly smiled. "Well, Isagi, how long do you plan to waste your life within this place? I can offer you much more, far more, than this orphanage ever could." Isagi studied him, smirking. "If you're looking for a mindless brat, they're all outside on the swings." The man then stepped closer towards him, his presence almost suffocating. "No, I'm looking for someone who can change the world." That was the last day that Isagi was within the orphanage, as he was adopted by the man known only as Ray Dark. He was taken to a sprawling mansion where he was led to a room, all white, closed off, and just before the door closed, the man's voice echoed behind him once again. Win. Win no matter the cost." Isagi, inside, found himself among dozens of other children his age. At first, he dismissed them, but when two of the kids broke out into a fight, one of them was left crying in defeat. Isagi grew irritated, walked over, and snapped, "Stop whining already," before helping the boy up. The boy then introduced himself as Saiki, and over time these two grew close. Life within this mansion was unlike anything else Isagi had known. Days were filled with relentless lessons, advanced science, mathematics, history, martial arts, and even sports. Each instructor drilled it into them, shaping these children into something more than human, almost like children's soldiers. When ISAGI questioned the purpose, Saiki explained the truth. This place was meant to forge the ultimate prodigy, where only one would remain. So ISAGI played the game. He advanced through every lesson, every challenge, outpacing others with unsettling ease. Slowly, the number of children dwindled. One day, the sports instructor gathered them for a game of football. ISAGI knew nothing of the sport, yet when an opportunity appeared, he seized it. Snatching the ball, he tore down the field. Ignoring the calls for a pass, he faced the defenders head on. He felt a rush of anxiety. But then, within his mind, these defenders turned into flames. The flames that once consumed his home now reappeared. Instead of fleeing, he charged right into them. With a sharp spin and a final kick, he sent the ball flying into the net. When the instructor asked if he had ever played it before, ISAGI simply said no. Ray Dark soon heard of the incident, and from that day forward, football became the central focus of their training, alongside martial arts and combat drills. Eventually, it all came down to one last test, a duel in kendo. Saiki was the only other child remaining besides ISAGI, and he faced them, trembling with the conflict in his mind. "We've been equals in everything," he said quietly, "and I still don't want to fight you." But once it began, it was clear that they were never equals. ISAGI dismantled him with cold precision, strike after strike, until Saiki staggered, gasping for breath. The wooden blade pressed against his shoulder. It told him everything he needed to know. ISAGI had always been ahead of him. To Saiki, their friendship had been too real. But to ISAGI, it had only been another illusion, another test. As ISAGI turned to leave with Ray, Saiki reached out desperately. "But aren't we friends?" ISAGI looked at him. He didn't answer. He only turned his head and kept walking. In the next room, screens would light up, replaying his football performances. Ray Dark's voice filled the air. "You could disrupt the entire world of football, ISAGI, but you'll need more training, much more. Think back to what you felt when facing other prodigies. That same thrill awaits you on an even grander stage." ISAGI hesitated, torn between apathy and curiosity, but in the end he made his choice. ISAGI would later be seen on a plane for the first time, headed to Argentina. As he then enters a video call with Ray Dark. "Yoichi ISAGI, you serve me now. Realize that you have no purpose but to become great. There is a reason you've won against all odds. These next years will mold you into the ultimate all-around player, so do not disappoint me at all." At just 8 years old, Yoichi ISAGI left behind the sterile white walls of Ray Dark's mansion. His training had shaped him into a prodigy unlike many others. But Ray Dark had bigger plans. He wanted ISAGI forged in fire, the fire of the world's football giants. Argentina would be where fire meets passion. ISAGI's first destination was Argentina, a land where football was more than a sport. It was blood, it was faith, and it was survival. Thrown into the barriers of an area, ISAGI faced kids who had grown up with nothing but a ball at their feet and hunger in their eyes. They played on dirty fields and broken pavement, yet every touch of the ball carried the weight of raw passion. Here, it was like nothing other than he had seen before. Football wasn't cold here. It almost shined bright as the sun. Here, he learned the relentless will to fight for every inch. The players didn't care about his Japanese intellect or flawless footwork that he had had. They cared about grit, passion, and heart. Each time, their egos and many other things were shown in the matches that he played. His training, it was tough, something he wasn't used to. but it beats his old life. Every day he went through conflict, and match after match, they hacked at him, shoved him, forced him to prove that he could endure their world. Going there, he was stripped from everything. It was no longer that he had privilege. He was down back at the bottom and he lived it, living on the streets with other kids among him. He played with them every day, learning, growing, and eventually being submerged into this lifestyle. And by the time he left Argentina, his body was scarred and hardened, but his resolve, it burned brighter than ever. From the chaotic streets of Argentina, ISAGI crossed the oceans to the United States, where football wasn't king here. Basketball and American football were. They stole the spotlight, but the academy he entered, well, it had honed athletes into machines. Training was specific, almost scientific, rigorous, and obsessed with physical dominance. ISAGI faced towering defenders, players with unmatched strength and speed. They weren't artists with the ball, but their intensity and athleticism forced him to adapt time and time again. His mind was being shaped during these journeys. His thinking process began to change as he unlocked a new type of vision to see the field and play ahead of him. It was in the United States that ISAGI developed his stamina, his explosiveness, and a sense for showmanship, learning how to captivate the crowd as he dominated each match he played. He realized that football wasn't only about winning, it was about commanding attention, showing everyone why you deserve to be in the spotlight through your skills and perseverance. But by 11, ISAGI's journey took him to the heart of football itself, Europe. Here is where he trained across academies in England, Germany, and France, each sharpening his style in new ways. But the defining moment came as he entered Germany, where fate somehow placed him in front of a man called the world's greatest striker, Noel. Noel was everything the world had adored: ruthless, efficient, and godlike with the ball. Watching him play wasn't just witnessing greatness, it was witnessing inevitability. ISAGI burned with questions, especially because he fell in love with the sport. Could I stand against him? No. Could I even surpass him? In a brief encounter, he exchanged words with Noah. The star regarded him coolly, recognizing the raw ambition within the boy's eyes. "You want the throne," Noah said. "Then take it. But remember, there's no room for equals at the top. There can only be one." Those words seared into ISAGI's mind, fueling him long after he left Europe. Soon after this is when he went from Europe's polished stadiums to China. Here, the academies valued discipline, endurance, and relentless repetition. Perfection was only the minimum. The competition was fierce, but it wasn't long before ISAGI began to dominate. The years of accumulated knowledge, Argentina's passion, America's athleticism, and Europe's precision all came together here. Here's when he got picked up by a local team. Match after match, he tore through defenses, humiliated rivals, and left the crowd stunned. China had seen nothing like this before. A young prodigy who demanded the attention of the world to be shined upon him. It's like every match, when he went out onto the field, every move he made let them know that he was here. A new age was beginning, and it was starting right here with him. He was no longer just a prodigy. It was almost as if he was a legend in the making. At 14, ISAGI returned briefly to Japan. For the first time in 6 years, he stood once before Ray Dark. The man who had plucked him from the orphanage now studied him with calculating satisfaction. "You've walked the world and tasted its fire. Now it's time to take a step onto the stage that will shape your destiny." ISAGI was given a choice: remain in Japan and dominate domestically, or step into the crucible of European football once more, this time as a true professional. Without hesitation, he chose. At just 14 years old, ISAGI Yoichi signed with Arsenal's youth division, one of the most prestigious clubs in England among giants. He was still just a boy, but one formed by 6 years. 6 years of battles across the globe. He wasn't just here to blend in. He wasn't there to learn humility or to be humbled. He was here to climb, to fight, to conquer, and one day reach Noel, Noah, and surpass him. Soon, we'd see him walking out to greet his team and coaches, who all believed that he didn't deserve to be here. But only the words of Ray Dark whispered within his mind once again. Win. Win no matter the cost. Days then burned into weeks before the team's first official practice. The others laughed and bantered in clusters, but ISAGI stood alone, stretching in silence, his eyes fixed on the turf. No one bothered to show the newcomer around, although he didn't need them. The shrill blast of a whistle cut through the air. The head coach summoned everyone into a tight huddle. Voice sharp, commanding. A simple drill to start. Pass, attack, finish. 1-on-1. Let's see who has the desire to win. The drill began, and the players charged at each other, testing their grit. Yet time after time, no one slipped past ISAGI when he defended. He was relentless, a wall that refused to crumble. The assistant coach would smirk. We might have ourselves a star defender. But then, when ISAGI switched to offense, lightning quick, ruthless with the ball, his feet danced, slicing through the defenders until they were sprawled on the ground, watching helplessly as he carved his way to the goal. He wasn't just talented, he was terrifying. By the end of practice, whispers began to spread. Some called him gifted, others arrogant. Although one thing was clear, nobody trusted the outsider. That evening, their first scrimmage began. For nearly the entire game, ISAGI never touched the ball. Even when wide open, his teammates refused to pass to him. He muttered under his breath, bitterness in his voice. What's the point of even calling for the ball? They'll never give it to me anyway. The coaches exchanged a look. Maybe he lacked the hunger, or maybe he just wasn't who they thought he was. Then it happened, within an instant. A loose ball slipped free. A defender claimed it, charging forward into open grass only to be smashed aside by ISAGI. I'll win, no matter the cost. In one fluid motion, he curved the ball into the net. Silence followed, and his teammates and coaches, stunned by what they had just seen. From that day forward, practice after practice, ISAGI erupted in bursts of brilliance, an unstoppable force who could bend the ball and the field to his will. And soon, the season opener loomed in front of them. Their first test, Chelsea. Match day soon arrived. Within the locker room, ISAGI was seen lacing up his cleats in silence. The starting lineup was announced, his name included. No surprise, his place was earned. The stadium roared as the players emerged. Fans packed the stands, scouts and professionals watching from the shadows. Kickoff. Chelsea opened in a 3-5-2 formation, dominating the middle field with crisp, calculated passes. A sudden strike rattled off the post, causing chaos to erupt within the box. Arsenal's players and their center mid scrambled to claim possession of the ball, cutting past one defender, and then two more had closed in. Ahead, ISAGI stood open, perfectly onside. Come on, just give me the ball already. But the midfielder turned, sending it to the other wing. The shot that followed this sequence was smothered and cleared for a corner kick. The opportunity was gone. Moments later, Chelsea punished them by scoring the first goal. 1-0. This was right before the halftime because they couldn't figure out anything to get past their defense. The whistle echoed like a deathly silence. As in the locker room, frustration boiled over. ISAGI slammed his fist into the wall, his head bowed. But a familiar voice clawed its way into his mind, his adoptive father's. Win, no matter the cost. ISAGI, do not fail me. The memory twisted into an old scene. Ray Dark's voice, venomous and cold. Listen, boy. Death is the only thing in this world that is absolute besides victory. Sacrifice your mind, your body, your soul, everything for it. If you can't do that, then you're nothing. Just replaceable. Snapping back to the present, ISAGI rose. Something had changed. His aura radiated fire, suffocating the room. Without a word, he tossed his towel to the floor and marched back out. The second half began. Chelsea pressed down the wing. But ISAGI appeared. A flash of speed into a ruthless steal. And suddenly, he was sprinting down the sideline with nothing but free space. Defenders stumbling in his wake. With every single devastating move, he broke free. The net loomed in front of him. This is where he had a clear opportunity. He shoots. It ricochets against the net, rolling. A shot. A goal. And even more, an equalizer. The stadium erupted. But instead of cheers, some of his teammates approached, scowling. You should have passed. We were wide open. Don't play here. ISAGI's eyes burned. Don't make me laugh. If you won't pass to me, fine. Just stay out of my way, or I'll burn you all down myself. Minutes later, he would strike again. Another goal. This time, a declaration as the winner. When the final whistle blew, disbelief swept the crowd. The outsider, isolated, doubted, and unwanted, had carried Arsenal's youth team to a victory over Chelsea. And this was just only the beginning. Soon, some weeks would pass, as their next match will be against Munchen City's youth team. At first, when hearing this, the team's excited, knowing that this will be a good match. However, ISAGI is questionable. From the film that he watches, the players that they're scouting, there doesn't seem to be a clear prodigy that they're going against. Only an all-around team that works pretty well together, which was strange. Usually on any type of team, especially from England, there's a clear someone who wants to make a difference. But here there isn't, which might be a problem. Because if they somehow find this person late, it could cause a deadly situation. Traveling to the area, it's stiff here. The fans, they're suffocating. The energy, it was like no other. Most of ISAGI's teammates, they weren't used to this type of pressure. But having been trained in America, ISAGI knew it all too well. He's used to those roaring stadiums that shook during every move of a game. But this was different. It was more calm and collected here. The game began, and it seems that Arsenal still hadn't warmed up to ISAGI. They passed around him, causing them to lose the ball. This is when Munchen began their own attack. ISAGI was of course back on defense here, and ends up defending another prodigy from England, Agi. He's able to push back ISAGI and his team for a moment, leading to their takeover, where they would score the first goal. But it seems that ISAGI wasn't worried at all, figuring out that Agi, well, he was the tool making this machine continue to work. Focusing more on the play at hand, he began smirking. The game then resumes, and he's quickly defended by Agi. You know, I don't think you're too special at all. ISAGI turns his back to him, this time receiving the ball. Agi then runs in to close out, only to have it flicked over his head. You're right. I'm not anything special. Just absolute, and nothing will stop me from achieving my goals. Shocked by this movement, he tries to recover, but Isagi's strength and speed somehow increase. What is this? How the hell are we even the same age? Isagi turns, pushing off of him, and looks up. 2 defenders in front of him. There isn't a clear shot. Agi then reappears, trying to force him off of the ball, claiming that he should just give up and return to Japan. It seemed as if time then froze in this moment. Give up? Give up here of all places? Damn it all to hell. If I can't get through with dribbling, then I'll create a brand new path. Once more, using his strength to get Agi off of him, he performs a chop that completely loses him. Isagi now stood in a shooting position. Burn to ash. Isagi's eyes were seen in an awakening-like state as he performed his first cannon shot. It rotated forward with spin while skyrocketing through the tight window and into the back of the net. The crowd around them erupted, and his teammates and opponents stood in awe. While looking at his hand, puzzle pieces began to form around him, each one showing key moments that led to another awakening for him. He was lost in thought as a voice rang out to him. Pretty good pass if I don't say so myself. Oh, sorry to burst your bubble, but there's still a match to win. I mean, we could goof off, but I think we'd both get scolded for that, and I've already been scolded too much as of this week. Isagi turns to see a teammate. Elias Navarro stood right in front of him with his hand out. His hair was curly and dark, and he was just slightly taller than Isagi. Elias played in the center mid position, but was a freak of nature when truly controlling the pitch. Oh, well, I guess I haven't introduced myself. I'm Elias, but you can just call me Eli, since we're partners now. Isagi blankly stares at him. He hasn't even seen him at all in the last 4 practices. Eli laughs it off, telling Isagi he has a bad habit of doing that. However, within Isagi's mind, he comes to a realization. Even without showing up to a lot of our team's practices, this idiot is still allowed to start the match? No. He must be a monster himself. Fine. If this benefits me, I'll keep him around. Isagi shakes his hand, and the two head back to reset the game with the rest of their team. Now, armed with a new ally, Isagi's journey takes a great leap. From this point on, in the match, there was no stopping Arsenale's offense nor their defense. Elias was truly a midfield spectacle, a young lazy prodigy with an incredible football IQ and awareness. He reads each play like the back of his hand to assist Isagi in his next 2 goals, earning him his first hat trick of the season and winning this game. From here on out, Isagi and Eli, well, they had a pretty good relationship. Soon their next match would arrive. Back-to-back games on the road, entering Liverpool's arena. This would be a game that would test them truly, their rivals. But this is where Isagi makes his true claim to the world, as something happens in the middle of this match that causes a drastic change within him. An overwhelming win against a rival was earned here. His teammates finally see him not as a winger, but as someone who could be a warrior on the battlefield, one who could carry both a sword and a shield. Fans, struck by his relentless drive, his crimson Arsenal kit drenched in sweat and fire. He's given a new name here, the Crimson Knight. The nickname spreads across England overnight, and for Isagi, it cements him to both his rise as Arsenal's true winger and something more, as his ego burned dangerously hot. But the catalyst that created the ender for that match that sparked that turn in the game will later be revealed in our story. And from that moment on, 2 years pass. ISAGI now stands at the same age as his canon self, but here, he carries a new name that holds an even greater weight. He no longer is just a rising star. He's one of the new Gen 11, a knight among prodigies. At Arsenal, he doesn't linger in the shadows of youth football. He's climbed into the adult squad, not as a prospect, but as a starter, a true weapon among legends. Beside him, Elias Navarro rises as well, but his role is different. He's an impact player, coming as a spark off the bench when Arsenal's rhythm demanded change. Together, they've carved quite the career in Europe. And yet, while Arsenali dominates, something else begins to stir back in Japan. Blue Lock. ISAGI hears whispers of it through Ray Dark, though he brushes it aside. He has bigger battles, larger wars to fight. Still curious, he wonders. He assigns someone to monitor the project, not out of concern, but out of fascination. What kind of striker could a crucible like Blue Lock forge? He wonders. If I am the winger, and Hitoshi Sai is the conductor in the midfield, what monster of a striker might rise to complete the trinity? Then, it happens. Japan's U20 team, the pride of the nation, falls to Blue Lock's 11, a band of strikers. ISAGI, stunned, wastes no time. He begins packing, preparing to return home. When his phone would then ring, his father's voice, sharp and commanding, cuts through the silence. Yoichi ISAGI, home calls for you once more. There seems to be something blooming in the darkness. Find out what it is, and do not disappoint me. This might be what changes the world. The line goes dead. A notification flashes. An email. ISAGI reads it, smirks, in his eyes, they ignite with something primal. Pride, passion, and even conviction. Once more, his hunger awakens. And to Japan, he whispers, wait a little longer. Your knight is returning. Time shifts. The Egoist League is announced. Teams gather. Nations wait in anticipation. Arsenali's roster glimmers with brilliance. Chris Prince as their master. Agi in the midfield, alongside Eli. And now, the Crimson Knight himself. In a darkened chamber, the Blue Lock strikers await. The air is heavy. Anticipation seen across all their faces. Chris Prince strides forward, basking in the spotlight, his voice slicing through the tension. He praises their talents and their bodies and their limitless potential, dragging the speech with theatrical flair until, at last, his tone shifts. But the strongest player on this team isn't even a striker. He's a blade, a shield, a warrior on the wing. Arsenali's very own Crimson Knight, Yoichi ISAGI. The spotlight snaps onto ISAGI, standing tall, his gaze fixed on somewhere else beyond the room. He doesn't flinch from the spotlight. He embraces it, standing with pride. He was a knight, awaiting orders from his prince, waiting to go straight into war. Slowly, he turns to the strikers, steps deliberate, echoing like the drumbeats of war. He then speaks. His voice is iron. I came here for one reason, and one reason only: to win. As a knight on the field, I hold only one decree: My orders are absolute. The strikers in front of him watch in silence. Among them stood Yoichi Isagi, one of the new Generation 11. Every player there still remembered Itoshi Sai, the monster who had stolen the spotlight in the U20 match. So none of them could guess how terrifyingly good their new teammate could be. Chris began by introducing himself and using Isagi as examples. What followed was merciless. Isagi was quickly thrown into a regimen that left him completely isolated and forced to sharpen himself alone. Meanwhile, the others began their own training. Elias wasn't too interested in training just yet. He began wandering the halls until he stumbled across Nagi and Reo. Yo, don't tell me you guys are football junkies like that night, Elias said with a smirk. Nagi and Reo just shrugged. Elias stepped into the room shaking his head. Don't let him get to you. When it comes to winning, the guy's obsessive. Reo tilted his head, curiosity sparkling. But what about you? You're a midfielder, right? And I've seen clips. You never panic, and your plays, they're always flawless. What's your secret? Elias then leaned against the wall, his grin fading for once. To be honest, it's kind of embarrassing. Have you ever thought about what life would be like if football was just... if it disappeared from it? I have. I've been cut from teams before, benched, stripped of a game. It was crushing. Like someone ripped my soul right out from me. But in that pain, I found something. A fire. A hunger for the sport that burned harder than anything I've ever felt before in my life. The room went quiet. Neither Reo nor Nagi spoke. After the long pause, Elias pushed himself to smirk again. You know what? I like you too. I'm taking you under my wing. And don't get the wrong idea. It's not out of charity or anything like that. It's because Isagi has already got his eyes on you guys. I've never seen him so fired up before. On the plane, he just wouldn't shut up. Especially about you, Nagi. Me? Nagi blinked, surprised. Elias chuckled. You kidding? That first goal you scored in the U20 match, he replayed it like 20 times. I had to tell him to just shut the damn laptop already. Your trapping caught his eye, because it matches his playstyle. He wants you, finishing his plays. You're the striker that he's chosen, the one Japan has been waiting on. The camera would cut out to Nagi's stunned face, and then time would leap forward right to the opening of the Bastard Munchen versus Arsenal match. The teams marched onto the pitch, the stadium shaking in anticipation. At the head of the process was Seishiro Nagi, yet this was no longer the lazy prodigy the world once knew. His frame seemed taller, his posture unwavering, and his expression carved in stone. A serious, almost divine aura radiated from him as he guided Arsenal into their positions. The sight of him alone electrified the field. In the shadows behind him, Elias and Yoichi Isagi exchanged a quiet conversation. Strange, isn't it? Elias muttered, his eyes flickering across the field with the light shining upon them. It feels like we're back in our old uniforms, fighting for this same team again. Isagi gave a small nod. Yeah, that same pressure and that same fire. You can feel it, can't you? A voice then cut through their exchange, sharp and mocking. I knew it, sneered Michael Kaiser, stepping into their path, his smirk brimming with arrogance. Isagi, I knew you'd crawl your way back onto this stage. As Kaiser's words dripped with venom, Ness strutted toward Elias, echoing his master's taunts. Sorry, but there's a height requirement to speak with me. Elias only smirked, leaning down until their foreheads clashed. Then lower your chin. But while they squared off, ISAGI said nothing. His sharp gaze locked onto Kaiser, unblinking and unreadable. Without wasting a word, he turned away and jogged towards his position, surveying Arsenal's shape with surgical focus. The Crimson Knight looked around. They were in a 4-4-2 formation. On the left wing, Chigiri. At left midfield, Elias himself. Right there on the right midfield, Rayo. And on the opposite wing stood ISAGI himself. Up front, there are two merciless strikers, Agi and Nagi. In the stands, the two legendary coaches began observing. Your team looks restless, Noel muttered, arms folded, like a machine, his eyes narrowing. I can't tell if it's a blessing or a curse. Chris Prince then laughed, shaking his head. Wait till you see, you robot. This is Arsenal's truest form. Their kingdom has already been reborn. The whistle shrieked. Kickoff. The ball rolled back, settling at Elias's feet. In that instant, Germany's players froze. Gone was the playful trickster that they knew and saw before them. Now, he was replaced with a predator, exuding an aura that sent shivers down their spines. Charging forward, Elias met Kunigami first. The redhead lunged, shoulder braced, but Elias bulldozed through him like a titan. Without a word, he chipped the ball nearly over Kunigami's head as it landed with Rayo. Ness then rushed in, but Rayo's eyes glowed, chameleon style. Copy. He mirrored Elias's movements, flawlessly, faster, even sharper. He blew past Ness and then baited Kira into overcommitting. Everyone expected the pass to go to Nagi, but then Rayo remembered. In a flashback, Elias stood before him, his arms crossed. Rayo and Nagi sat at his feet. Rayo, what do you want out of football? Not some dream, not some excuse. Tell me. To win a World Cup. Then, answer me this. In a match where Nagi and another striker are both open, who do you pass to? Rayo hesitated. It was only silence. Eli smacked him on the head. Wrong. Always wrong. Until you've learnt this. The right pass goes to whoever can lead you to victory. Individual talent, it doesn't matter at all in certain situations. Predictability is what kills teams. Remember that. Or you're no midfielder. Back into the present. Rayo's eyes sharpened. He twisted his body, mimicking ISAGI's movements this time. He whipped across, not to Nagi, not to Agi, but into the path of a crimson blur. Chigiri. With a thunderous strike, Chigiri then unleashed his 44 Panther shot into the net, causing it to ripple as it rocketed in. Kira's eyes froze, then they widened. Impossible. Our squad. It's stacked with his own weapons. But this team is full of monsters. The stadium then erupted, cheers deafening. The silhouettes of ISAGI, Agi, Chigiri, Nagi, Rayo, and Elias loomed in the blinding stadium lights. Across the pitch, Kaiser's smile turned into a twisted fury. BM then resets. Ness is fed the ball, who then sends it to Kaiser. Their tempo surged. Their rhythm was like poetry in motion, slicing through Arsenal's formation like a blade. Kaiser danced, striking again and again. until Arsenali's defense boxed him in. Checkmate for the Emperor. Or so it seemed. Without a moment's notice, without any windup, or any predictability, the Kaiser impact struck. The Emperor launched the ball like a comet, tearing into the net. He then spun towards ISAGI in celebration. Not even trying to stop me, but ISAGI only looked to his teammates. One by one, they smiled. "Well, Kaiser," ISAGI said. His voice was calm. "That goal, that shot you lean on, it's only sealed your fate as of now." The restart came, and the ball rolled to ISAGI. In the stands, Noel and Noah began to sit up for the first time. Chris Prince grinned unknowingly. "Oh, so you feel it too. That blaze, that suffocating pressure. The Crimson Knight has awakened." ISAGI's eyes gleamed faintly red as he sprinted. Kunigami stepped up once again, but ISAGI shoulder slammed him to the side. It's almost as if, no, they couldn't have been equals in strength. ISAGI was far ahead of him. Kira began looking, analyzing his muscles. No, that can't be true, but that's impossible. Charging in, Kira exclaimed that he'll stop him here. ISAGI's head then tilted, almost puzzled. "Oh, so you're the next challenger." With dazzling control, ISAGI switched to his weaker left foot surprisingly, breaking Kira's stance. A sudden crossover floored him completely as he fell to the ground. Kaiser's voice then cracked. "You can't be serious." One-on-one, now with the net, Kaiser lunged in desperation. "This one's mine." But ISAGI feinted the shot, yanking the ball back. His voice thundered. "I've already chosen." Ignite pass. The ball screamed through the air like a cannonball, as a flashback would happen here. Nagi was wandering the facility, aimlessly. In one room, ISAGI was training relentlessly, sweat dripping from his chin. "Nagi," ISAGI called, motioning him over. "Tell me, who are you? Without the sport of football, do you even exist in this world?" Nagi stayed silent. ISAGI's eyes blazed. "I don't believe in anything but two things, winning or dying. So why not win until we die? I've seen your brilliance firsthand. Only a striker like you can receive my passes." Nagi then thought of his battles with Kira, of the fire that pushed him to evolve. He clenched his fists, standing for a moment. Everything leading up to this moment. He never chose the sport of football. It's like it chose him, pulling him to a certain path. But for what reason? He didn't know until just now. I want to become the best." ISAGI grinned. "Then from today on, I'll guide you." Back in the present, Nagi's trap was perfect. His eyes, once dull, now burned with life. No more settling. No more minimum. From this moment on, destiny is mine to control. With ruthless precision, Nagi smashed the ball into the net. The stadium exploded in chaos. The pass itself defied belief. No spin, only raw force. A gift delivered to a genius alone. Chris Prince began laughing, hysterically, his voice trembling with exhilaration. "Now you see it, Noah. This isn't the old Arsenali. This is a completely new kingdom with me as its prince. And those warriors below, my knights of the Round Table. The crowd roared as each of Arsenal's players flashed like legends of old. Germany's team, trailing, regrouped. Kira here on the next possession took charge. If Kaiser can't pierce them, then he'll find the answer himself. He and Corona flowed seamlessly together, weaving through defenders. Every pass flawless. Their 1-2s were amazing, yet a shot was impossible. Kira then drew the defenders in and lofted the ball. It was towards Kaiser, predictable as always, or so it seemed. The ball then rose higher, settling across the chest of Kunigami. I'll end this now. His cannon of a left leg swung, launching like a missile towards the net. The keeper froze, helpless. The crowd gasped. But then, the ball ricocheted off of ISAGI's head. Who decided you had the right to score that goal? ISAGI barked, snarling. I'll die on this field before I allow it. Controlling the rebound, he launched a counter. Shigiri bolted as the ball was sent to him, and then later returned it to ISAGI, who now stood face to face with Kaiser. Getting tired of this deja vu, huh, Kaiser? I'll destroy you, Kaiser spat, and wiped that smug face away. ISAGI smirked. Always violence. No wonder father never adopted you. For a moment, Kaiser froze, but then lunged, but the ball floated past him and landed perfectly for Eli. Elias' aura shifted entirely. His movements, dismantling Ness and Corona with ease. Defenders then gravitated towards him, caught in his orbit. At the edge of the box, Elias wound for a long-range shot, only to grin. Just kidding. I won't be the star this time. His pass, it found Nagi. And in this moment, Nagi's true awakening was here. Defenders crowded him. First, he faked a shot, and then again, and then another defender came. Kaiser himself and Kira would also come into defense, but it wasn't enough. Nagi was truly awakened, reaching this new stage that won't yet be named. As he performed the 5-stage volley, the ball then rocketed into the net, sealing victory. Nagi stood tall, arms wide, with his head down, the fire in his eyes, unshakable. I will become the world's next number one. His gaze met Noel's, unflinching, as the commentator's voice then rose into madness. This intense clash was now over. A victory for Arsenal. Not only that, but Seishiro Nagi has been reborn in this match into a new player, one with high goals and ambitions. With 3 remaining matches in the Egoist League for this team, what could we hope to see? Who is next on their road to awakening and becoming their true self? What moments could lie in front of us? And have we truly seen the extent of the Crimson Knight and his abilities? Or was there more awaiting us? My name is Zero, and I'll catch you all on the next one.
Get that paper, told that Glock, that's how we live. Yeah, my life's a game, I pray I don't get killed. They can't believe I got to guap, this shit for real. Can't accept the fact my brother gone, I wanna kill. Yeah, I can't go for that shit don't sit right. Instead of cabin to the old nigga, I know what you live like. Ain't worried about all, just fuck these hoes and live life. I grown the drill, I'm smart enough, you gotta know how to kill.
Seishiro Nagi's 5-stage volley sent shockwaves through the world of football, igniting both excitement and unease. Across the Egoist League, rival teams began to tread more cautiously, the wary of brilliance they had just witnessed on the field. Arsenal finally exhaled after a hard-fought victory against Noel and Noah's team, their laughter echoing throughout the stadium. Yet, amid the celebration, two players stood apart, their hearts gripped not by joy, but by hunger. Yoichi Isagi and Seishiro Nagi shared the same thought in this moment. That goal simply won't be enough. I need more. Days then began to pass, and training resumed in relentless cycles. For the most, the match faded into memory, but for Nagi, that volley, it became an obsession. One evening, Reo stumbled across him, alone in a room, his eyes locked on a screen replaying that goal yet again. "There you are, Nagi. I've been looking for you," Reo said with a slight chuckle. "Watching your goal again, huh? You really are something else." Nagi didn't respond, his gaze unblinking, his expression unreadable. Finally, he murmured, a voice low but firm, "I can't let this continue. That goal, it came out of nowhere. A fluke. Luck. Something I can't just recreate. I've watched it hundreds of times, and every time, the same thought burns through me. I'll never become the best if I can get satisfied with a goal that can't be repeated." Silence filled the room, heavy with unspoken tension. After a long pause, Nagi stood up, closing his eyes, as if sealing a decision. "Reo, I need to level up again. And so do you. From here on, until the next match, we'll split paths." Reo tilted his head in confusion, but before he could protest, Nagi continued, his voice uncharacteristically earnest. "You're more than just a passer, Reo. I've seen what you can do, especially during the second selection when I wasn't with you. Become the best for yourself so we can reach our dream together." With that, Nagi left, fire in his eyes, isolating himself for a grueling self-training. Meanwhile, Isagi emerged from the sauna, a steam clinging to his skin as he walked towards a room where his mentor awaited. Inside, Chris Prince greeted him with an enigmatic smile. "Yoichi Isagi of the new Gen 11. You're quite the fascinating player, to say the least." His tone then sharpened. "Tell me, why do you hold back against your opponents?" Isagi paused for a moment, then answered steadily. "I like the struggle, the feeling of competition. Just dominating others, it isn't enough for me." The atmosphere began to shift, the air in the room turning cold as Chris Prince grew serious. What he said next would remain unspoken for now. And finally, the day of the match would arrive. Arsenali marched onto the pitch, lining up in a disciplined 4-3-3 formation. Across from them, PXG revealed their own weapons, the Itoshi Ren formation, a system meticulously crafted by Loki himself. The whistle blew, and PXG seized possession from the kickoff. The ball zipped across the field before landing at someone else's feet, someone who wasn't familiar to those from Blue Lock. Charles Chevalier now has the ball. Guess it's my turn," he muttered, with a grin tugging at his lips. Before he could even advance, Eli slid in, boots sparkling against the turf. "Not so fast, brat." The clash between them erupted instantly. Charles' smaller frame should have been a disadvantage here, but his control turned into a weapon as you were shown just how much of a prodigy he was at this age. With a sharp twist, he curled a pass around Eli, threading it perfectly to no one other than Itoshi Ren. The defenders barely had time to react. With a ruthless flick, Ren unleashed a trivela shot, that bent ridiculously past the keeper and slammed into the net. PXG struck first, sending the crowd into chaos. As on the sidelines, Chris Prince folded his arms, watching in silence. As next to him, Loki smirked. "Charles is a prodigy," he declared. "I placed him here to sharpen him for my sake. His vision, his passes, they will all help me surpass Noel Noah." Chris chuckled, low and mocking. "Cute dream, but there are obstacles in your way. Loki, me, for one, and my students, they aren't the type that you can push aside so easily." Both masters and fell quietly as the ball reset at midfield. This time, it would roll to Yoichi Isagi. His eyes, they burned. "I'll show you all true strength." It was as if he stepped into a fire itself. A new Isagi emerged on the pitch. Nanase was the first defender to confront him. His improved ambidextrous style of play made him an even tougher defender and wall to break. But Isagi shredded him with explosive dribbling and acceleration, slipping past. Next, then came Tokimitsu. He tried to body Isagi, but the difference in raw force, it was staggering. With a sharp pivot of his core, Isagi shoved him aside, sending him tumbling into the grass. The commentators would gasp here. Unbelievable. Yoichi Isagi is treading down the field by himself as if he's a one-man army. What could come next from this attack? Finally, Choppa surged in to block his shooting lane, but even that was futile. Having studied Kaiser's impact firsthand, Isagi had forged his own answer. Without telegraphing, without a wind-up, without anything to declare it, he struck the ball with brutal precision and power as it ripped into the net, sliding past the shoulder and head of Choppa as he tried to block it. He didn't even feel the wind of it. It was a violent shot, but it was almost ghostly in a manner. This wasn't just an equalizer, it was a declaration. Arsenali was not here to be anyone's stepping stone. And it was all said by Isagi's phantom shot. Ren's eyes narrowed, a fire igniting inside of him. Charles too felt the thrill of this match, his pulse racing, as he then realized how much he was enjoying himself. Soon, Nanase fell back to Ren, who advanced with his destroyer aura blazing. This time, an unexpected figure awaited him. Seishiro Nagi. His presence was different, calmer, sharper, suffused with quiet determination. His eyes locked on to Ren, his balance and instincts allowing him to cling close, suffocating Ren's options. Forced, Ren slipped the pass back to Charles, who used a teammate as a smokescreen. The two prodigies igniting their own chemical reaction here, culminating in a devastating strike that thundered into a goal. PXG surged ahead once again. Arsenali now stood at the crossroads, and in that moment, Mikage Reo awakened. "I won't let our dreams die here, Nagi." His flow state burst open, and his perfect coffee style awaiting a pass. Soon the game would reset, and he gets the ball, unleashing his full brilliance here. Gliding across the field, like Sai himself, Reo dazzled with seamless precision. Spotting Nagi ahead, he launched a soaring pass. Nagi trapped it effortlessly with his heel. "Nice one, Reo. I'll handle the rest." No longer haunted by uncertainty, his aura radiated life. Enlightened, Nagi danced past the defenders and then leaped into the air as he flicked the ball. He met it mid-flight, and with a scissor kick, it sliced into the net. A tie. A tie in this moment, with the crowd erupting. The stadium's atmosphere, it thickened. The next goal wins. Both benches erupted with fire, and in a shocking twist, each master subbed themselves into the game. Loki and Charles together. Now, against Prince and ISAGI together. With PXG having the ball here, Loki and Charles tore apart the field. Their chemistry, explosive and quick. The young midfielders' vision rivaled his seniors, while the God Sprinters spearheaded the assault. Their synergy climaxed in a lethal shot from Loki. It then soared through the air. All hope seemed as if it was lost, only for Yoichi ISAGI to intercept the ball. His trap was perfect, almost replicating Nagi, his eyes blazing. Victory belongs to those willing to die for it. He runs up the field, with Ren then stepping forward, lips curled, his tongue hanging out as madness gleamed in his eyes. Then let's die here, ISAGI. The two collided in a ferocious duel. ISAGI dribbled left. It was cut off. He then spun the ball, his body twisting, but Ren mirrored him perfectly with suffocating pressure. Shoulder to shoulder, they battled until ISAGI abruptly halted, shoving off Ren. In an instant, with this opening, he rainbow flicked the ball over Ren's head. Then, he slipped it past him, towards Elias. Elias traps the ball, looking back at his friend. Not bad, ISAGI, he would grin. But we'll take it from here. Right, Rayo? The midfielder duo surged, stitching together short passes like a symphony, each one sharper than the last. Rayo carved out into space and fired a shot, but Nanase was able to just deflect it. Even if it was just so small, it did enough to send the ball off course as it would ricochet against the post, bouncing wildly back into play. Suddenly, no one was around the ball, but someone would appear, as there he stood, Seishiro Nagi. I alone will deliver victory. Every movement flowed with perfect efficiency. Everything, from the traps to his elastic control. Even Loki was able to sprint back with impossible speed. And he was trying to defend, but he was unprepared for what followed. A strike like no other. No spin, no rotation, floating unnaturally, as if it was defying everything about a technical football shot. And then, as Loki tried to deflect it, it plummeted with a violent swerve. The crowd held its breath as the ball smacked against the back of the net. The zero-gravity volley. Seishiro Nagi had ended the match. Arsenali erupted in celebration. Chris Prince stood frozen, his mind already wandering to the future. A new age is being born right before my eyes. And it's pretty exciting. Nagi then walked towards ISAGI. The two stared down for a moment before exchanging a sharp high five. Not bad, Seishiro Nagi. Not bad at all. ISAGI smirked. Nagi then raised his fist to the sky, sending it towards the crowd and sending them into a frenzy. Elsewhere, Jinpachi Ego sat before his monitors, his glasses gleaming as he unwound the footage. Seems I miscalculated you, Nagi. This evolution of yours. Unexpected. Honori then glanced at him. Didn't you say his last goal was a fluke? Ego's eyes shifted to another screen, one that showed ISAGI and Sai. His voice was calm, but edged with excitement. These two prodigies here, they're something else. They're truly works of art. They'll be the reason why Japan conquers the World Cup. They have the power and the brilliance to unlock 100% of the potential of these unpolished gems around them. Leaning back into his chair, he adjusted his glasses, a thin smile tugging from his lips. The world is at your fingertips, Seishiro Nagi. Blue Lock's enlightened one. Arsenali was now undefeated in the Neo Egoist League, and each one of its players have exceeded previous expectations. This team, it was on the verge of something special, something that wouldn't be witnessed in history ever before. Days later, we'd see ISAGI watching film for the next upcoming match, Italy's Ubers, a defensive and tactical squad. He had to prepare in order to overcome everything that could happen within this match. With players like Oliver Aiku, Iki Nico, and even Don Lorenzo on the defensive line, scoring for Nagi might be even harder. Even with that, he vows to make it a reality. He sits in thoughts about the words of Chris Prince that he had told him days before their last match. We then see the flashback. Don't allow them to even believe that they hold a candle to the fury of your own flames. Burn them down. Burn them all down without mercy, or you'll die in this world. Those words, no, they couldn't have been from Chris Prince himself. It was obviously a direct message relayed to him. Suddenly, someone enters the room that ISAGI was sitting in. His adoptive father looks down upon him. I've returned to you, my son. Tell me, are you enjoying it here? It seems so, from all the videos I've seen. You're quite the people's champion. The Crimson Knight of Arsenali. How remarkable indeed. This Egoist League. It seems like a great hunting ground for you. But enough of the small talk. I think we can get straight to it as of now. Don't get too ahead of yourself, boy. Continue to prove yourself useful to me up until the very end of your life. Be the flame that doesn't extinguish. Ray Dark then leaves the room, but a box was left at the door of it. Intense training leads the following days up until the match. Arsenali's locker room is then shown as we'd see ISAGI lacing up new cleats. They were white and red, but also sported a knight on the side of them, as one of the cleats had his jersey number on it. We then see him stand up. Behind him, an envelope that was signed by his father. Walking out with his team, he steps onto the field looking forward, across from his opponents. So this is the Ubers team. I'm not too impressed. Yo, ISAGI, it's been a while, hasn't it? Don Lorenzo appears right before him, smirking. The two would have their exchange, and they move to their respective positions. Both new Gen 11 players, each on different sides of the ball, one defensive and one offensive. Lining up on the field, the game begins, and the attack is led by Elias, of all people. Taking on the midfielders, he dribbles around them and spins into open space. Stepping forward, from here, he runs in the Italy's wall. Seems the odds aren't in my favor right here. He backheel passes it to ISAGI, who wasn't too far behind him. ISAGI then breaks down Nico with a step over into a cross move. Open space appears once for him, and his eyes fixate on the goal. As he goes to shoot, someone begins laughing, sliding in the way. Don Lorenzo looks at him, and the two of them begin their battle. Both new Gen 11 players each wait for the other to make a move. A masterclass defender against a one-of-one winger. Bring it on, ISAGI. I'll devour that ego of yours. ISAGI closes his eyes, with darkness around him, and focuses forward. Taking a step, we'd see a switch to the perspective of Lorenzo, watching ISAGI like a hawk. But then he vanished within a moment's notice, moving into open space. What the hell was that? Don Lorenzo turns his head slightly to see ISAGI making his way by him. He's able to contort his body and spin towards him. Pretty good move, his gold showing in his smile. But it won't be enough. ISAGI, with his head down, smirks, and then throws the hand of Don Lorenzo out of the way before crossing him and once again getting open. Before Lorenzo could recover, ISAGI uses his cannon shot as a declaration of war for the first goal, which caused the Ubers to realize that ISAGI, well, he may be ramping up to completely surpass the rest of the new Gen 11. The next play that follows, Baru takes the ball at the front of the attack. Out of my way, you peasants. I plan to rip you apart. He gets by Chigiri, but instantly runs right into Seishiro Nagi, who had his head down. Hey, you sloppy king. How about I give you that rematch that you wanted so badly? Infuriated, Baru rushes in, trying to force his way through with his dribbling to overcome the awakened prodigy. Don't get in my way, he growled, forcing his frame into Nagi's space, trying to crush him with sheer strength and will. Nagi's eyes begin to narrow. They become sharp and even serene. With a jab, he pokes out the ball just over Baru's outstretched leg as it began to bounce away. Nagi runs and is the first to reach it. Turning back with a smile, the crowd gasped. Baru whipped around, his teeth bared. But Nagi, he was already gone, gliding past him with pure speed. There was no indication of his acceleration. Who even knew that Nagi was this fast? He then effortlessly controls the ball as he begins dribbling. Baru was able to catch up, and the two have their short exchange. Each one of them, two titans, battling for the ball in this moment. From the stands, Mark Snuffy and Chris Prince both sit back looking down. Well, it seems that our prodigies are battling out to become the best. Snuffy would sit back, not worried at all. Well, I'll tell you, Seishiro Nagi has shocked me, and I did have to adapt to his style of play. But it shouldn't be something that Baru can't overcome in this moment, and show why he's truly the king of the Ubers, and even my successor. Your successor? Chris Prince begins laughing while holding his hair, slicking it back just a little bit more and looking down with a fierce smile, even standing up and yelling towards Seishiro Nagi. He would turn back to the other master, looking Snuffy dead in his eyes. Your successor is about to lose, but I guess that's something that's common between you two. Snuffy, his eyes would widen, then turning back to the field to see Baru completely being overwhelmed by Nagi. This enlightened state of the prodigy, it was nothing to mess with at all. Baru would jab at the ball, only for Nagi to lift it and spin around him. Again, Baru reaches out for it, only to be made a fool, as his ankles are broken, and Nagi just flicks the ball over him. How I pity the king, who has no dominion in my field of play. Nagi then turns it up a level, increasing his speed, and showing off his strength, being able to push Baru off of him. The king had faced no adversary like this thus far. Not even anyone up to this point proved this much of a challenge. So what was it? What was it about him now? This wasn't the Nagi that he faced within the second selection of Blue Lock. No, this was a completely rewritten player. Someone who emerged from the pits of hell to become something greater, something not seen before. This strength that he holds, could it even rival Itoshi Sai? In one last-ditch effort, the king awakens, trying to steal the ball once more, but it's crossed past his leg and lands to the partner of Seishiro Nagi. The purple ponytail flows within the air of the pitch. Mikage Reo takes charge at this very moment. If you truly are the king of Italy, you could call this a hostile takeover, as the knights of Arsenali will invade at this very moment. Seishiro Nagi then runs off, we would then see Rayo. His movements, they were a blur, mimicking his own speedster as he dribbled out of traffic. "I'll carve my way to victory here and now," he declared. With a slight touch, he lifted the ball and chipped it over defenders before it even had a chance to touch the ground. Arsenal's Red Panther would jump, curving the ball into the net with his new technique, something developed while hanging around ISAGI. He noticed that his 44 Panther shot, it was unique, yes, and it was a powerful strike, but how often would he be able to use it? It's too predictable. A shot that comes after pure speed is something that even a keeper could predict if watching his movements correctly. So, what about a shot that comes from nothing? Something that comes right off of a pass that no one could prepare for. If he's able to use his speed at just the right trajectory, he could cause the ball to curve right into the net. It was almost like Ren's Trivella's shot, but on a whole nother level, as the speed from this shot, well, it would come from the speed of Chigiri's own sprint. This is when the ball continues to roll against the net. The Ubers, they had no idea what to even think at this moment. Everything they planned for, everything they've been training for, it was all thrown to waste in this very moment. With down 2 goals, what could they truly do? Yeah, Snuffy said it would be his fault if they lost. But even losing at this very moment, it was something that they didn't want to do. They only had a couple more matches left. Well, 1 to be specific. So they couldn't lose here. The Ubers began to look forward, only to see their king standing tall, with only anger on his face, focused on the goal that lies ahead. We'll score in the next possession. If we don't deserve to even be here at all. Baru would reset the ball, looking ahead. I'll crush whoever stands in my way. With my own path, I'll forge it now. Chris Prince then sat back, casually crossing his legs. Even if you made a strategy for my team, there's one thing that you could never predict. Snuffy watched as Chris Prince pointed down at Seishiro Nagi, triggering a flashback, revealing that Chris had personally trained Nagi at some point. He focused on helping Nagi tap into his own flow, stating that if Hitoshi Ren could do it, then so could he. They just needed to find his own catalyst. What truly drives Seishiro Nagi down deep within his core? Is it the exhilarating feeling of winning and crushing an opponent? Or is it something that lies deeper, maybe buried within a memory? Nagi would search within himself, finding it. That feeling of loss, agony, anguish from losing something that he believed belonged to him. That's something that he couldn't feel again, something that he couldn't stand for. And with that, he began thinking. Did football, the gift that was given to him, did it truly belong to him? Or was it just merely a gift from the gods? His trapping, his ability to understand the sport and level up in ways that couldn't be imagined. Was it truly something that belonged to him and him alone? Or was it just a gift that could have been given to anyone upon the earth? Nagi's thoughts, they began racing within his mind. And then he would eventually come to the conclusion. None of it belonged to him. No goal, no glory, no wins, and no losses. It was all just an experience, something that guided him to something even brighter within his mind. A selfless playstyle, one that only desired victory by any means necessary. One that realized that yeah, he was a prodigy like no other, but that could be anyone in the world. Something that pushed him beyond the ideals of ego's selfish nature. In a room, no, in a facility full of strikers that desired their own path and desired their own strength, Nagi realized what he was. He was an outlier, becoming enlightened in this very moment. Seishiro Nagi became one who desired nothing at all, nothing but to shine brighter than anyone else. That was his ego, something selfless, something that was truly his own. Realizing this in this moment, as he was playing with Chris Prince, Nagi paused for a moment, looking back towards his master in this 1v1 situation. Chris Prince could feel it himself, beginning his own awakening. So, it seems you've awoken. Now show me what you can do. The two would rush at each other as we wouldn't see the outcome. But from this, we'd see Chris Prince beginning to smile with his blood rushing. Seishiro Nagi, Blue Lock's very own honored one. Nagi would soon surge forward, getting the ball, a shining light illuminating his path. He led the charge, pushing the ball towards the next goal and ultimately winning the match for his team. Snuffy, he truly had no answer for Nagi's skill. Not even the double team of Don Lorenzo and Oliver Aiku could stop this unstoppable version of him. The next match was against Barcha, and we wouldn't witness any of it. It was only complete domination. The highlight was a stunning volley to complete Nagi's hat trick, delivered by no one else than ISAGI. Together, they completed the demolish of the Neo Egoist League, going a flawless 4 victories and 0 losses. As fans around the globe began to recognize the talent of these Japanese players, especially that of Seishiro Nagi and Yoichi Isagi, Jinpachi Ego knew that he had much more to focus on beyond this. The U20 World Cup awaited Japan. However, since this arc is still unfolding within the manga, we'll pause the story right here as of now. So tell me, what did you all think? How did the story resonate with you thus far? I do eventually want to revisit it and finish out the U20 World Cup, but it seems that there'll be some time until we get to do that because of where it is right now in the manga. But I really did enjoy doing a story like this. The original version of this What If, where I just did it in a one-shot type of manner, it was alright to me. I feel like it could have been explored much deeper, like I did here. I feel like I needed to make the story much more impactful, but also change a lot of the characters that Isagi would meet along the way. Adding in someone like Elias did throw me for a loop because it was hard to put him in, but when I realized that he could fix the bond between Reo and Nagi, I realized he was the perfect character for it. As for Isagi, this version of him, you may feel like he was sidelined a little bit, but he wasn't. There were so many moments where he showed how much of a true player that he was. A masterclass winger, someone that couldn't be rivaled on that side of the field. He awakened Seishiro Nagi and many other players on Arsenali. So, how do you think it would happen? How do you think the U20 World Cup would go with this version of Isagi? Would he even go to visit the other nations like the original did? Or would he remain with Arsenali, training his days and waiting for the moment? But I also believe that this version of Isagi will be the one to convince Itoshi Sai to come back and join Japan for the U20 World Cup. If you made it to this point in the video and you haven't subscribed, consider doing so, as it helps me out a lot. Also, if you've watched each part of this video, drop a comment down below from what you liked and what you disliked. And also series that you want to see more of. Drop any ideas for what ifs that you have down below, and I'll make sure I read them and get to the ones that we really could explore. My name is Zero, and I'll catch you all on the next one.